it's Renee. Welcome to my channel. So for today's video, if you saw the title, so a little bit ago I did a ride guide for Disneyland if you're plus size. And so I actually just got back from Universal and E3 and Disneyland and everything. And I've only now been to Universal twice. I do feel like I have like a pretty generally like a good idea of what the rides are like just having been there, because there's not that many and really most of them they're not totally rides. And so I feel like it would be kind of good to let you know that Universal Studios isn't really that plus size friendly. So I just kind of wanted to go through each ride because there's not that many of them and kind of let you know a breakdown of each ride, what it's like for me. I'll show you photos of what I look like. I'll tell you my height. I'll tell you my pants size. I'll tell you my shirt size. And like I said, I'll post photos so you can kind of get a general idea of like what I look like and see if maybe you can measure yourself up and see if it'll help you kind of, if you're planning a trip there, if you're going there, it'll help you kind of figure out whether or not you can kind of ride any of the rides, just to let you know. But just to let you know here, it is not size inclusive for various different things. It's not just rides that make it kind of not size inclusive. It's a couple other things too. It really depends. Like for me, I feel like just because of how my body is shaped, I'm lucky that I'm able to fit on a lot of the rides just because of how like the rides themselves are shaped. But I feel like if maybe even if you were taller or if you're bigger than me or if you were shaped a certain way, then you would have maybe a hard time with it. But yeah, if you would like to see this ride guide, or see it, if you'd like to listen to this ride guide, stay tuned and we'll get into it. So I do have them because I have been on all the rides there now twice. And I just wanted to I have it just over here, this way I wouldn't get any of the names wrong on my laptop. Before I had like a notebook because there was so many, but Universal Studios is really great in that they list all of their rides very easily. Yeah, so I'm just gonna be going through each one just to let you know. For my sizing, I'm gonna go based off of Torrid sizing just because I feel like it's a good Universal plus size brand. I'm size 24, 26 in Torrid jeans. In their tops, I'm a size 4, sometimes a size 3. Same thing with dresses, size 3 or size 4. Skirts, size 24, 26, 3, 4, all that. Just to let you know, I am 5'4" in height. I typically am more of an apple shape, but I do have thicker legs and thicker calves, and so that kind of comes into play when we're talking about this. I do feel like overall, just kind of based off of Universal Studios, they're not really that plus size friendly. I think I was just kind of lucky in certain instances in how my body is shaped. So to kind of go through it, so the first place we actually went to that day was Harry Potter World. So it's the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. There's 2 rides there. There's Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey and Flight of the Hippogriff. So just to let you know too, outside of pretty much every ride like this, there are test seats that you can sit in and test whether or not you will fit in the ride. And it'll show you by like a light, there'll usually be a light, and it'll be green whether or not you fit in it or not. Outside of Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, there is some tester seats you can go and sit in. Now last year when I went, I didn't fit in them either. And this year I was like, all right, well, you know, I'm gonna try again, just like because of eating a little bit better and exercising a little bit more. I have lost a little bit of weight, not a ton. I don't wanna make this channel about weight loss, but I knew that there was a difference from last year to this year. And so I went and I sat in it, and it's still like, I don't even honestly know if it was even close. Like it's so hard to tell like what size you actually need to be to fit in it. So I tried it outside, and like I said, my parents we got front of the line passes or the express passes. And so I was like, I'm just gonna go through. It's really cool to see the inside of the castle. I will just, whatever, like I said, I'll just go to the inside of the castle and then I'll go wait in the waiting room so my parents can go, because that's who I went with. Like, my mom fits fine, she has no issues, she's straight size, and my dad, he's taller, but he's generally straight size, and even he was saying how it was kind of like a tight fit even for him, even though like he's just like a bigger guy because he's like 6'2" and he has like more like broader shoulders. Pretty much, yeah, like I said, so I went in and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try again. I'll try the seat thing on the inside that's in the line, and there was a girl there who helps you kind of who helps you and see if you can actually get on the ride. She was actually helping someone else and they weren't able to go. So I went and I sat down. And you know, if you've ever been on a ride where I think this girl kind of felt bad for me because she was also plus size, and I think she kind of like, I don't know if she necessarily understood, but like we kind of like looked at each other in a way of like, I'm not gonna fit on this, but thank you for trying kind of a look. And so I sat down, and she actually really like went in and tried to make me fit, and I was like, I'm sorry, it's not gonna happen. And she's like, I'm sorry that you can't go. There's weight rooms up there, just grab your parents' stuff and you can go wait for them. And I was like, okay. And I was like, thank you. And she's like, yeah, have a good day. And yeah, I like don't even, like I said, I don't even know like actually how close I was even remotely at all. And then my parents went on it. I waited for them. They actually had Sorcerer's Stone playing, so I was just watching that like while they were on. And I was like kind of just bummed because I know this was a big complaint in Florida, so then they actually extended the seating there, and I was like, why can't they just do that here? I mean, I guess people are in California maybe are just thinner. I don't know, but I feel like that should be a thing. You should just extend it. Like, who cares? Because I feel like I was walking around, and maybe it's just because of being hyper aware, but I was like, there's a lot of plus size people here. Like, there's a lot here. Like, I was really kind of like, not surprised, but like, I don't know, just maybe because like they aren't aware of them maybe not being able to fit on the ride or something, but like I was like looking around and I was like, that family's plus size, like, or like that couple's plus size, that person's plus size. It just seems odd because people kind of have this conception or like this misconception that like everyone in California is thin, where I don't really think that that's necessarily the case. And everywhere I go somewhere, there's usually like quite a few plus size people. So I don't know. Then I was like, all right, well, that's not gonna happen. So there's a good chance that if you look like me, maybe if you're taller and maybe you have more of a flat stomach, or maybe even, here's the thing, I even feel like even if you're pear-shaped, I don't know how comfortable it would be, because I can sit in it and I can sit in the actual seat and it's kind of tight and firm. So I don't really have like that big of hips at all. But if you are more pear-shaped and you're predominantly pear-shaped, you could probably sit in it, and maybe because it's a little bit deeper, like your legs will sink into it and it'll kind of account for being more big-hipped. But at the same time, I just can't imagine it being comfortable because it's an over-the-head kind of a thing, which is weird because at Disneyland, they have over-the-head on the Now Incredicoaster, and I've never had issues with it ride. I've been on that ride so many times because you just pull it down and you go. To me, there's no reason that it needs to come down to your stomach. As long as it goes down to your chest, then you should be fine. Maybe make it to where like the ride is more encased and then you don't have to worry about it. It's just such a weird thing to me because there's other parks like Disneyland full and has over the head on a huge roller coaster, whereas this is just like a 3D simulation thing that you spin around on a bunch. That I can fit easily on the Now Incredicoaster, originally California Screamin'. I can fit on that ride easily, but I can't fit on a sitting ride. That just seems so insane. Yeah, that ride didn't work out. So then before that, my parents actually went on Flight of the Hippogriff. So I went over there, I tried out the tester thing too, did not work. The main thing too that's really weird is that the Flight of the Hippogriff and the Mummy ride both have similar like seating contraptions, but for some reason, because of it being a more compact roller coaster, and it's honestly kind of like the only true roller coaster in the park, at least where like you can actually see it and like move around on it and everything. But I went and sat in it, and really the main issue is because of my body. Because my body pushes out because of my fat, obviously, my knees get in the way, and then I can't pull it past my knees. And I was like, okay, well, I guess it's just me and like how my body's shaped. And like, you know how you just start to get kind of bummed about stuff, even though I already knew that I couldn't fit on these rides. I just was like, let's try again, let's see. And then my dad goes to try it, and he's like, this is really tight. And like I said, because he's had hip surgery and he's had knee surgery, but he is generally, like, he's straight size, like he's 6'2", he's tall. And he literally like barely fit on that. He like barely fit on the tester seat, and when he actually got on, he literally had to like move his legs back because his knees stuck out, that he couldn't pull it down all the way. So he had to basically bend his knees backwards in a super uncomfortable position just so he could go on it. Proving that if you're tall, you generally probably won't fit on it either. And I don't really think it's supposed to be a kid's coaster, considering the fact that like primarily adults go on it. Like, it's just so weird because you know how you start to feel, you're like, well, it's just me, it's just because I'm fat. And then like my dad, who's not fat, goes on it and he's like, yeah, I barely fit on this. He's like, I don't really see how you could fit on this unless you were like my height and like only maybe like 150 pounds. Like, he's like, I just don't get how you could. And even he was like, yeah, I just like, he's like, it's super uncomfortable for me to sit like this. And so they end up going on the ride. He ends up positioning himself to where he does fit that way. It's just weird that I don't really understand why there's a bar in front of your knees. You could just put the bar on top and then it wouldn't be an issue. Because if the bar wasn't there and it was just an open space for where your feet would go, more people could fit on it. I don't really understand why they built it that way. Going on top of that, there's the Mummy ride. And the Mummy ride, I fit like easily. Like, and they're the exact same type of cars, but there's more space in the seats. Like, they built the seats deeper, this way your body can sink more back into it. And there's still a bar there, but it's not, it's more further out. It's kind of more built at like a bigger slant. So you literally can pull it out. I will say, I do fit on it easily, but I'm wondering if maybe too, because it hits me at the point where my smaller stomach area is, like my, right below like my boobs, like that kind of spot, the bar hits me right there. If you have more of a rounded kind of a stomach, I could maybe see it being an issue because it could kind of clamp down on you and maybe not go down all of the way, but it does have tester seats outside that you can try. And so I feel like if you look like me and generally, and you're like, all right, well, I look like her, I'm about her height, I think I'll be fine on that ride, because I am fine on that ride. I have zero issue with it. But that's like kind of the thing, is that it's weird that the Mummy ride works, but then they built a very similar contraption on Flight of the Hippogriff. It doesn't work at all on Flight of the Hippogriff. Like, what is the big deal with the Mummy? Like, why is that one so much better? But again, it could totally just be me, like in my sizing. And I will say a lot of the times I really didn't see that many of the plus size people in the ride, probably because they were trying the stuff outside. This isn't gonna happen. I am going to just wait outside for my family or something, which is a huge bummer. I'm like, you should be able to ride a ride. Like, I don't know. It just seems so dumb. And then to go into that, so technically they list the Fast and Furious Supercharged and the King Kong 360 3D ride as a ride. Really, those are part of like the studio tour. The studio tour in itself is like a ride. It's like an hour-long tour, and it's actually very cool if you're very much like, if you're into movies or you know someone who's into movies and you go together. It is a very cool thing to go on at least like a couple of times. I've been twice now, and I think that it is quite fun, but they do count the King Kong ride and the Fast and Furious ride as a ride, and so there's just seating, like it's just open seating on there with like rows of technically adjusted chairs, but like if you needed 2 chairs and like you were with someone else, you could just sit with them on one of the rows, and that's just how it would be. It's not really like, there's no seat belts, there's none of that, so you'd be fine. But technically they're not rides. You just kind of get locked in to like a thing with the bus, and then it kind of like moves you around a bunch, and it's really cool, but it's not really like a ride, you know? It's the same thing for Fast and Furious. You think you're in like this high-speed chase and all that, and then King Kong, it's like you're getting thrown around by King Kong and some dinosaurs. It's not like really that. It is a very cool thing. You generally will fit on it. You can just chill there and sit on it and watch the studio tour, which I think was very fun and very interesting if you are interested in the movies that Universal has made over the years. So just to let you know. Before, they kind of, it wasn't like a ride, but it was like a movie theater thing. It used to be Shrek, but now it's gonna be Kung Fu Panda. Those are just typical like theater seats, and you don't have to like worry about that at all. There's also the Walking Dead attraction, which isn't a ride at all, but you walk through and it's like being in The Walking Dead because there's zombies. I personally don't like that type of stuff because I don't like jump scares. I don't like being scared. I went through it the first time, and I didn't go on it this time because my dad came with my mom this time, so I stayed outside out behind the Cinnabon in the shade because it was very hot. I do think that it's a very cool thing if you don't want to go on a ride and like you can't fit on rides and like you like The Walking Dead. It's a very cool thing to go through. The Despicable Me ride is just like your typical, like there's a bar that comes down, but it's just like a sit down ride, like a 3D simulation sit down ride. Bar just goes down, and then that's kind of it. It's not really anything crazy. It's kind of like Star Tours in that way. Like it's very much like a Star Tours-y kind of a ride. And so you just sit, you go, you watch, and then you're done. It's not anything crazy. It's a longer ride, but it's just like a sit, bar pull down, you're fine. The Jurassic Park ride. The Jurassic Park ride I think is the best ride in the whole park. It is so fun. I got super soaked on it, and it was like insane. I guess what they do, since it was a lot hotter that day, it was really, really hot, they will amp up like how much water actually gets like thrown on people while you're on the ride. And so we got soaked, like crazy soaked. But that one's actually pretty easy because there is a bar that pulls down. But basically, since it's not like Splash Mountain where you're like one big row. It's like a big like row of like 4 to 5 people that typically go in a row. Maybe 6, it just depending. But it's just a bar that pulls down. Maybe I could see them, if you can't get the bar to pull down at all, maybe getting kicked off that ride. You just pull it, and then since it is kind of like that, it's pretty safe in that regard. So really, you just kind of get pulled, you pull the thing down, and then they are like, okay, the bar's pulling down, it's not coming up, and then they just kind of send you off on your way. It's not anything crazy. And the bar is super thick and super durable, even though it doesn't block you from any of the water that gets shot at you. But I do think that's like the best ride in the entire park. I think you won't really have any issue with it, just depending. I don't think they have any tester seats outside, but I mean, they're not really like strict. It's kind of like one of those things where you literally could just go sit in it and I think you'd be fine. There's a Transformers ride. The Transformers ride, you kind of just sit in a car and there's a bar. The bar just pulls down. It's not really any crazy like locking thing. They just pull it down, they push it up a little bit, and then they send you on your way. It's not seatbelts, it's not any of that. And it's not really a ride. It's more of like fake driving. I think you go in like one circle and then there's just videos of you pretending to be a Transformer and saving the Allspark. That's the thing, is like, it is a really fun park. It's more about movies and ambiance, but the rides aren't really anything special. That's the only thing I will say. But I do really like Universal. I would definitely go there again. But yeah, it's not really anything crazy. I feel like that is a more plus size friendly ride just in general. And then the Simpsons Ride is kind of like another fake simulation roller coaster. You sit in it. The bar I think is very uncomfortable, but like at least for me, I fit in it and I didn't have any issues with it. But it was kind of tight, just kind of how it positions. It's like a double bar situation where one goes like onto your stomach and like against like your like chest kind of. And so I could see that maybe being an issue. Like I said, if you maybe have more of a rounder stomach, if you have a more flatter stomach, I don't think you'll have an issue at all. But it's not the most comfortable of rides. Now, I'm not going to talk about the Silly Swirly Fun ride because I didn't go on that ride because it's a children's ride. So yeah, there are other things you can go on, like there's the water, or not go on, but there's other things you can do. There's the Water World show, which I think is very cool. There's Universal's Animal Actors. You can find characters there. There's the special effects show. Also, there's Super Silly Funland, which is just like a water thing that you can take your kids to. It's supposed to be like from Despicable Me. I mentioned too how overall I kind of felt like just in general buying stuff from there. I'm the type of person where like if I find somewhere that I like, I generally want to buy things from there. And so I kind of went around in every single store in the Harry Potter world and I looked around and I tried on a bunch of different shirts. So they do come up to a size 3X. But here's the thing. Their sizing is super whack. Like just in general is terrible. So in some shirts they do come up to a size 3X. But what they do, rather than making them wider, they make them longer and then they make the arms bigger. Imagine my arm and then imagine just like tons of fabric being added onto it. That's what the shirts are like. But then the stomach area is super, super tight and really long. It's so strange. And I'm like, why not just make them wider? Like at all. And then I was like looking around at everything and I tried on a bunch of different shirts because I was like, I kind of want a shirt from here because I have Harry Potter shirts, but I don't have one from here. I tried on some sweaters, I tried on shirts, I tried on tank tops, I tried on a nightgown. Literally none of it looked good. Like, I mean, none of it, it's not that none of it looked good, but it just didn't fit to where I was comfortable with it. And like, obviously too, you shouldn't let things being kind of tight or different wear you down, but you want to be comfortable, at least I do. And so I was like trying a bunch of stuff on and I was like, I just won't wear this because the neck, literally I tried on this one sweater and the neck was like this. And I was like, why would someone's neck be this size, but it's not big enough to go off your shoulder like that? And I'm like, why would someone's neck be this size? Like, but then if someone's neck, like, it just doesn't make sense to me. If someone's neck was like this, then why would the stomach be so, like, tight? Wouldn't it be bigger? Like, I just don't understand that. But then for me, too, the arms are too long. I was like, you're making all these extended sizes, but they're just extended straight sizing. It's not anything crazy. And you're charging an arm and a leg for the clothes. And I'm just like, I don't know, it just really bothers me. And then I noticed that this is a trend throughout all their stores, where they come into 3X with some of their stuff, but it doesn't fit that well. It's not cut for plus size people. It's just cut for straight size people who maybe are like up to it like a size 18, or I don't know, whatever the equivalent of that would be in men's sizing. But usually, because a lot of these shirts are like generic unisex things or like men's shirts, and I wear men's shirts a lot because I buy a lot of my graphic tees from the men's section because they're cheaper and they're cute usually. And I'm like, I buy men's shirts a lot and none of these men's shirts fit me. And it's just really, really weird and very strange and I don't understand it. I genuinely believe that Universal Studios is like doing a disservice to a lot of their customers because when I was there, like I said, I noticed there were a lot of plus size people there. That seemed to be a large portion of their market. We are people, we make money, and we would like to spend money if services are provided for us, but they usually never are. But yeah, it's really frustrating, which sucks because it's a place that I genuinely love, but only because I do fit on most of the rides, but I can't really get any of the clothing items that I want. So like I said, I'm gonna post a Universal haul, maybe before, maybe after this, I don't know, I haven't decided. But it's just kind of a bummer because I feel like even though obviously Disneyland is a lot more expensive and it's a lot bigger, the thing is, yeah, it's one of those things where I love Universal. I think it's very cool. I think it's a very fun park. I think it's really cool if you're a little bit older and you like movies or if you like Harry Potter and all that. But the thing is that tickets for Disneyland cost about the same price if you get, it's a little bit more expensive if you get a park hopper, but the park's bigger. Things generally come in a much better sizing or fit bigger. There's just tons to do. There's lots of rides. And I feel like Universal Studios, their passes are a little bit expensive for what they offer, especially too when it comes to like rides and clothing and food options and all of that. It's just, I don't know, it's just very strange. I will say something that's very good about it, since it's not a very big park, if you want to get to the down below area where Jurassic Park is, where the Mummy is, where Transformers is, there's tons of escalators you can take since it is built on a hill, which I think is very nice if you don't mind standing on some escalators. I think there are elevators, but I've never been able to see where they are, and so I'm not entirely sure where they are to where you can get downstairs. I think they might be down by the Simpsons Ride. I don't know. But I mean, overall, I did have a very fun time, but that's just for me personally. I can't account for other people if, like, based off of their body shape. Like I said, there are some tester seats on the outside of rides just to kind of think about it like that, and so you can try it. But just be warned is that you're probably, if you look like me at all, you're probably not going to fit well on the Harry Potter rides at all, because I don't at all. And yeah, it's just kind of a bummer. But I do think that the whole escalator thing is very nice. You can get preferred parking, which means you can be closer to the park. You can take Jazzies in there just like you can at Disneyland. And it is a smaller park, so this way it's an easier walk to get places. Everything's very like centrally located where it's easy to find, or it's downstairs. And then I think the studio tour is generally pretty fun, and you don't have to worry about being too big for that ride, and so that's kind of nice when it comes to that. I do just genuinely feel like I wish that they would do more to accommodate their clear, apparent plus size customers that show up there. Because like I said, I saw a lot of plus size people. It wasn't like just me and a sea of thin people. Like, there were plus size people there. We exist. Yeah, that's pretty much everything that I have to talk about. I hope that that was kind of a good indication if you've never been there before. Like I said, I am not a full-blown expert. I have not been there a ton of times as I have been to Disneyland. But since it is a smaller park and I have been there now twice, I think I have generally a good idea of what they're about. And it's a little frustrating, but you know, what are you gonna do, I guess? And like, unless enough people complain, nothing's gonna change. Enjoyed this video? If you did, leave a like down below, comment, and subscribe. Again, my name's Renee. Thanks for watching. Bye.